Guys, great to see you all. I've seen a couple of you taking assiduous notes during the presentations, particularly Dr. Doug. So really looking forward to hearing all your insights. But Alex, I want to hear more about how you and your firm traded the event risk of the Italian election.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we're a proprietary trading team based out in London, and a little office in Poland, and a small little satellite in Cyprus. And our entire approach when we're trading the Italian election, and we're day traders, is we take highly leveraged positions. We're very involved in harvesting, volatility, and that's and how to cultivate that edge. Now, for us, the edge, just a great talk by Doug. But for me, a lot of the time, that 5%, it can be as little as 5% mental, because if you don't have that skill, if you don't have that edge, it doesn't matter how hard or diligently you've worked, you can't extract money from the profits if you aren't able to recognize those patterns. So with the Italian elections, we noticed a really large volatility climax starting to happen days, a couple of weeks ago.
And Alex, sorry to jump in, but we actually have a chart that demonstrates, Can we get Alex's chart up, Kevin, exactly what you were doing? Sorry.
Yeah, so for us, in the firm, we don't actually train people to have views, because views don't make you money. And what we do train people is to really focus on patterns that we've cultivated as a firm, or of how we harvest. So over here in the Italian elections, what we're actually noticing is, if you can see just further on down around about 2 weeks ago, where you see the white line and you see the orange line start diverging, and you actually effectively get a heightened negative correlation. Now, we don't trade these opportunities, and we actually trade on what's called a DOM, a price ladder. And we look for these, and that's for our timing. And so when the Italian elections, when the BTPs, which are the Italian 10-year bonds, and the 2-year bond, the BTS, was starting to create the systemic event throughout the asset classes, was how we're going to get involved in the bond market, because the liquidity in the market of the BTPs completely disappeared overnight. So from our perspective is, what type of order flow? So they mentioned earlier on, and CME mentioned that the technology is becoming more readily available for the retail trader. And in the past, you needed to have large technical infrastructure, and now you can actually trade on what's called the order book. And it's actually seeing the participants in the market exchanging. It's equivalent to watching the old days, the pit, where the people are auctioning, and they're in the open outcry pit, and that's what you can actually see on what's called the price ladder. So on that day, when the liquidity completely disappeared, it was a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the BTSs in the futures market, was literally on the order book. There were 1 to 2 lots, as opposed to on average 200 to 300 lots. So how do you hedge that, and or how do you speculate it from a profit perspective? And what we are doing is participating mainly in the German bond market, because there's still liquidity there as they were hedging in that space. But it's all well having that view. Is how do you observe the patterns to extract the opportunity? And what we do is, on that day when the BTPs made their absolute low, the current low, you always get, and we had it on the Brexit, we had it on the Trump, and it's just a little order flow event that we look at as a firm, where you get the final crescendo of the volatility of the move, and you'd get these large, abnormally large orders, 3,000, 4,000 lot. Some of you might not mean that much, but this is 6 to 10 times the normal size. And whenever we see that, we know that there's a potential reversal in play. And so we started getting long on the BTPs and BTS because of that order flow event. We actually had, as a proprietary intraday trading, we actually had our greatest years in the financial crisis. We've now they're traders at the moment having the best times of their career. It depends what edges you can extract in the market. So I suppose it depends where your so-called institutional funds and your larger funds, who find it harder to navigate that type of liquidity around. they find it difficult to extract returns, but there are day traders who are still making exceptional amounts of money, and discretionary day traders, the ones who don't require an HFT system or algorithmic, guys who are able to extract money.
How important is not just an awareness, but actually an in-depth knowledge of macro events to add to being able to do technical analysis, look at the order book, and sort of other approaches to trading as well?
Yeah. So one of our core skills where we trade a lot, we trade all the central bank decisions out of the main. The ECB, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, even the Bank of Canada, and sometimes the RBA and the Fed. So it's Fed and ECB, and these are
a big week this week.
Yeah. So these are our biggest days of the year, and a lot of retail traders look at it and say, well, you stay out of that. But for us, once you start building the narrative and understanding the narrative against the contextual background of the technical landscape, and then overlaying that with your order book, which is really showing you the auctioning nature of the market, is where we start designing our strategy. And a lot of times you'll have on an event or on a day, you'll have the ECB that actually raises the rates, but the market wasn't technically ready to move in that direction because someone's been absorbing. You've been watching this person absorbing on the ladder between 28s and 35s for the last 3 days. That's information, order flow information that you can use on your overarching macro narrative that you've built up. So for us, the macro environment with regards to geopolitical events and central banks, there are patterns on how the news is released, how the market digests the news, and once the market has digested the news, how you could have even bigger news hitting the market, but the market digests less because the market becomes tired of the news. So it's understanding that entire timeline of events and when the opportunity starts coming to the market and when it starts dying out. And the best traders who are trading macro events using their technical approach as well are the ones who are able to isolate the ability when the sensitivity of the news to the market starts becoming dry, or when it starts really pushing up. So yeah, it's one of the most advantageous and one of the most opportunistic events for us as intraday day traders using the DOM, which is direct market access to the CME and the various products. Liquidity is a very important consideration. And then how we apply, so we use the market profile, which I think is a CME charting tool, and which shows the time structure of the market. And the market profile for us, which shows us the contextual arrangement of the market, has just a different approach across different asset classes. And so how you apply that across the asset class is up to you. Now, just with regards to technical analysis, the main thing is sometimes from our perspective, the best traders on our floor have the cleanest charts. They don't accessorize it with 100 different indicators and moving averages, because the markets, as Doug mentioned, are rather simple. Simple from the perspective of going up, down, or sideways. Hard to find your edge or the pattern that's consistent. And so from that perspective, a very clean landscape, and then having the ability to understand yourself individually as a person. And every good trader should actually have his own patterns that he's never read in any book. Effectively, all the best patterns are the ones that you've manufactured with all the subtleties that you're able to extract from the market. So that's really important. It's what we train all of our younger graduates is the ability to believe in yourself in uncovering the patterns of the market and how you perceive things, because we're all quite unique and different in how we perceive opportunity.
We literally have 60 seconds left, so not to put you guys on the spot, but just a final word, a piece of advice for everyone in the room and everyone listening on the live stream.
I think the most important is trusting yourself and having an ability, a questioning framework to ask yourself at the end of each trading session of what you saw in the markets. And for us, what we do a lot is we ask the question, where did the moves originate from? What did the context look like? And then slowly, the brain is incredible. You start putting the puzzles together. And over time, through that conscious, deliberate practice, you pick up the patterns of the market.
If you find this video interesting, if you want to go deep into the Axia training method and how our trading team of 7-figure traders develop setups and strategies and how they learn to build the most profitable trades across all market environments, then join me in this workshop. Now in this workshop, you're going to learn 3 powerful steps we use to train all our traders on both our London and our Poland trading desks to help build incredible levels of consistency. You're going to learn our 2 main strategies for how we perfect our trade timing before we enter every single trade, how to avoid those large losses, and our main method we use to identify them that saves our traders significant amounts of capital. Finally, you will learn how our traders use the power of network learning to find market patterns quicker than ever before, so you shortcut that learning curve. In the workshop, we want to program your awareness of elite performance, to program your ability to choose the right setups, and program your ability to be a consistent trader. And I can tell you this, you'll never see the markets the same again. You'll never look at the markets with a narrow view of getting lost in all the noise and confusion. You'll take a first step towards a deep edge market awareness. I cannot wait for you to join me in this workshop. And I think you're in for a massive paradigm shift in your understanding of how to develop as a trader. So join me by clicking on the top right-hand corner of the screen and sign up for this powerful training workshop, or visit elitetraderworkshop.com.